Part 32. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 312. Term Converter. Golden Entry Conversion, 100 experience points / each time. God Level Entry Conversion, 1000 experience points / each time. Conversion of Super God Level entries, 10,000 experience points / each time. Supreme Level Entry Conversion, 100,000 experience points / each time. In the entry converter, even if it is the highest level Supreme Level talent entry, the experience value consumption for one conversion is not much, just 100,000 experience points. The price of a golden talent entry. How much is 100,000 experience worth? Not much, sincerely. Because Ryosuke Yagami is so lucky right now? In just a few transformations, you can get a favorite supreme entry. Don't worry about converting tens of thousands of times but still not being able to convert the entry you want. That kind of thing that only happens to unlucky people will never happen to Ryosuke Yagami. You can rest assured about this. In addition, 100,000 is also the consumption standard for supreme level entries. No, the Super God level entry only has 10,000 points. How much is 10,000 experience points worth? That's simply too little. After all, no Ryosuke Yagami's income in one day is all verified by the 717 test. A mere 10,000 experience points is nothing. This function is good, especially since there are too many duplicate entries that appear in the synthesis, and it can just be used to transform some of the duplicate entries. Ryosuke Yagami is quite satisfied with this new function. This thing is used in conjunction with the entry synthesis function. If you synthesize an entry that you are not satisfied with, you can take it here for transformation and transform it into something that suits your needs. The entry comes. Moreover, this is a conversion for the entry itself. The entry converter does not only have this function. Yes. The entry converter, it can also convert a certain item of an entry separately attributes. The charging standard is 1/10 of the cost of converting a complete entry. You must know that even talent entries of the same level have good or bad differences. For example, the total bonus of some God level entries is only 6,000%. Although it is concentrated on a single attribute, the value is indeed much less, isn't it? And for some God level entries, the total bonus can reach 12,000%, or even more. This is the difference. And a single word article attribute conversion is to convert the bonus value of a certain attribute of the entry. For example, it was originally a 3,000% bonus. After the conversion, it may become more, but it may also become less. This function. Let the knight Ryosuke Kami thought of the Krypton Gold game in his previous life. Isn't this just equipment training? System. What are you trying to do? Ryosuke Yagami strongly doubts that this single attribute conversion is a trap. The system just wants him to do what he wants. The perfect entry attribute, and then invest a lot of experience points into it. Don't look at the conversion of a single entry attribute only requires 1/10 of the experience value of a complete conversion. But it can't withstand the number of times. If you convert 10 times, the price will be the same as if you converted a complete entry. If you convert 100 times, 1,000 times. It's really scary when you think about it. How about giving it a try? Ryosuke Yagami looked at his remaining experience points. Because he had collected enough 10 Super God level entries that could be equipped, Ryosuke Yagami did not synthesize any more in the future. At this moment, on his account there are still more than 46,000 experience points lying around. Although it is not a lot. But a single attribute used to transform a Super God level entry is only 10,000 experience points at a time. These experience points from Ryosuke Yagami can be transformed exactly 4 times. Give it a try. Yakami Ryosuke made the decision immediately. Anyway, the experience points consumed are not much. The main thing is to try this function to see how effective it is. Is the probability of washing out good attributes high or low? Even though Yagami Ryuzyuk guessed in his heart this thing may be a big pit, but I still can't help but want to give it a try. This is probably the same as when I played games in my life. I knew it was a gold-earning game, but I still couldn't help but put money into it. Wait until the money after spending all the money, I started to regret it. But by then it was too late. The entry converter interface. Ryusuke Yagami put the entry God of Transcendence on it. There is no other reason, it is the bonus of this entry. There are many attributes. You can try them one by one. First, clean up the attribute of Divine Body Strength. Ryuya Yagami turned his mind into a finger, selected the Divine Body Strength attribute among the 4 bonus attributes, and then clicked the Transform button. In an instant, a green ray of light turned into stars and gathered on the right side of the interface, forming a new entry attribute. Divine Body Strength add 12,000%. Hey! It actually improved. Ryusuke Yagami was a little surprised. Mainly because I didn't expect it to be so easy. Is this what is called novice luck? Or, I am really lucky, so I can get a higher attribute bonus for entries. Yagami Ryusuke thought for a while, and then chose another attribute for the second time, the power of blood. Experience value minus 10,000. To read exciting novels, go to Fila Novel Network. As the experience points are deducted. Ryusuke Yagami also saw the result of this transformation. Bloodline power at 11,000%. Another improvement. Could it be that I misunderstood the system? Yagami Ryusuke felt a little suspicious. But there are 2 more opportunities later, and it won't be too late to wait until these 2 transformations are completed. So, Ryusuke Yagami once again transformed the attributes of the remaining 2 entries. Physical fitness add 10,000%, physical fitness add 9,000%. Power of High God add 10,000%, power of High God add 9,000%. Really? I knew you weren't such a good person in the system. Ryusuke Yagami looked at the 2 conversion results and said to himself that he had indeed not wronged the system. This single entry attribute conversion function is really a trap. I will give you a little sweetness at the beginning. Then it will start later. I'm cheating you of your money. Of course. Because Yagami Ryuzyuk's luck is really good. After all, the 120 times bonus is there. So even if his bonus value becomes less after the transformation, it's not much less. It's just a reduction of 1,000 just %. If you count it like this. After 4 transformations, Yagami Ryuzyuk still made a profit. I just don't make much money. God of Transcendence, Super God level, you can transcend everything, the so-called upper limit, that's not your upper limit at all. The power of higher gods add 9,000%. Bloodline power add 11,000%. Physical fitness add 9,000%. Divine body strength add 12,000%. After 4 transformations, Ryusuke Yagami's God of Transcendence entry looked like this. The strength of the divine body has been improved the most. Second is the power of blood. But the 2 attributes of High God's power and physical fitness are not so good. All have reduced bonuses by 1,000%. Rather miserable. Or the experience value is too little. Ryusuke Yagami said heartily. Then he looked at the time and found that it was already past 1 p.m. before he knew it. But Kushina hadn't gotten up yet. So Ryusuke Yagami simply went directly to the Yondaime Orakai on Maru's side. He is preparing to give his machines a wave of enhancements now. After all, this is related to how much experience he earns every day. The 4th generation Hokage Orochimaru is in the parallel world. Ryusuke Yagami's figure directly appears in Orochimaru's location. In the secret experimental base underground in Konoha. When he arrived, Orochimaru was preparing a new batch of clones today. Orochimaru. Ryosuke Yagamai reminded him of his existence. Why did Ryosuke-kun come here today? Orochimaru stopped what he was doing and looked at him in confusion. Generally, their transactions were conducted directly in the chat group and completed by sending designated red envelopes. There was no need for Yagamai Ryosuke to come in person. From now on, I will need 1000 clones with shadow level strength every day. Let me inform you. Ryosuke Yagamai said. Hearing this, Orochimaru frowned and said, Ryosuke-kun, you should know that this number is beyond my ability. I know, Yakami, Ryosuke said calmly, so I will come here in person to strengthen these machines of yours. I will strengthen them to add 20 level. This should be fine, right? Strengthen add 20? A glint flashed in Orochimaru's eyes. Then he nodded and said, if that's the case, 1000 shadow level clones a day shouldn't be a problem. So let's get started. Tell me what needs to be strengthened. Ryosuke Yagamai said directly. He is still waiting to collect a batch of clone hair from Orochimaru, and then break it down into experience points to continue the unfinished attribute transformation work. All these are. Orochimaru pointed at several machines in that area. One of them was a particularly large one, which should eventually be used to create a breeding chamber for clones. After hearing this, Ryosuke Yagamai walked over, unplugged the power of a machine, and then throw it into the strengthening pool of the chat group. Strengthening talisman. He stretched out his hand towards Orochimaru and said. Yagamai Ryosuke's own purchase limit for today has reached. He can't even buy it if he wants to. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 313. Give. Orochimaru handed over a stack of strengthening talismans. There are 3 types of strengthening talismans: Guarantee Talisman, Lucky Charm, and Strong Luck Talisman, but not many. After all, Orochimaru is not as rich as Ryosuke Yagamai, especially the Strong Luck Talisman. With 10,000 points, Orochimaru earned some points, but he didn't squander it to this extent. Fortunately, Ryosuke Yagamai's luck has improved now, and it is naturally easy to strengthen it. The first machine was originally and the enhancement level is 11. Yagamai Ryosuke succeeded in strengthening 4 times in a row. He got it to add 15 in one step. Then he failed once at add 17, but it was only this time. All the subsequent enhancements were successful. It was easy to reach add 20. Then there were other machines, most of which failed once, or not at all. It was easy to achieve the goal of add 20. Nailed it? Ryosuke Yagamai returned the remaining strengthening talisman to Orochimaru. Orochimaru still looked surprised. You rarely see an expression like surprise on Orochimaru's face, but at this moment, Orochimaru was indeed shocked inside. Add 20, is it that simple? Orochimaru recalled that when he went to strengthen add 15, he failed again and again and had to start over again. It feels like it's not as simple and relaxing as Ryosuke Yagamai. Does Ryosuke-kun have any special strengthening skills? Orochimaru asked curiously. Yes, I have. Yagamai Ryosuke smiled and picked up his hands. See, it's okay if your hands are red. Orochimaru. So, is this all down to luck? After hearing this, Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh a few times. It seems, his luck is not very good. In fact, this is Orochimaru belittling himself. His luck is not bad, after all, he is one or two of the few Hokages in the current chat group who can increase the enhancement level to add 15. Even, among the powerful 20-level Hokage reaching add 15. Orochimaru still spent the least amount of points. It would be an understatement to say that he was extremely lucky. But it also depends on who you compare with. Compared with the previous Yagamai Ryosuke, it is naturally similar. Even better. Compared with the current Yagamai Ryosuke, that's just making yourself unhappy. After all, what's the point of comparing you to a guy? Help Orochimaru strengthen all his machines to add 20. Ryosuke Yagami also watched Orochimaru create batches of clones, and then he personally took off a hair of each clone. He didn't want much, just a hair. Then these clones can be returned to the factory and remade. Save materials. Orochimaru also didn't need these clones, which he considered to be substandard clones. After all, Ryosuke Yagami has no requirements for IQ or anything like that. It was originally used as a raw material for the decomposer. What are the requirements? But if Orochimaru wants to use it, he must have requirements in this regard. Therefore, in Orochimaru's view, the batch of clones he helped Ryosuke Yagami produce were completely unqualified and defective products, and they would naturally not be kept for other uses. Moreover, according to his current technology, while helping Yagami Ryosuke produce 1000 shadow-level clones every day, he can continue to produce another clone whose strength has reached the early stage of super shadow level. As for raw materials, haha. Aren't these the Hokages in the group who have been giving him free supplies? Every time they ask Orochimaru to extract blood and stuff like that, Orochimaru will keep a part of it himself. They wouldn't know anyway. Orochimaru used this part of the material to create a clone team with super cage level strength. But before today, there were only 3 members of this clone team. After today, I believe there will be many more members in a short time. Soon, this clone team will be fully formed and can help Orochimaru do many things. For example, capture the ninja villages of the other 4 countries. Unify the ninja world. Orochimaru actually has no ambitions to rule. The reason why he did this was entirely to make it easier for him to conduct those scientific experiments. After all, scientific experiments cost the most money. All kinds of materials cost money. But if Orochimaru ruled the entire ninja world, then he wouldn't have to spend this money. And, to avoid anyone trying to subvert his rule. On the surface, Orochimaru will still maintain the current situation of the 5 major nations, but secretly, he has controlled the entire ninja world. In this way, we can avoid the emergence of weird things that want to subvert the unity. Come back from Orochimaru. Ryosuke Yagami has another amount of experience points on hand. Not much, just over 500,000. But tomorrow, Ryosuke Yagami will get 950,000 experience points. And every day. Keep converting. Ryosuke Yagami sat down on the sofa, opened a bottle of juice, and then opened the entry converter interface to continue the unfinished work. Put the entry God of Transcendence on it. Ryosuke Yagami started again and again the attributes of washing. Although the cost of 10,000 experience points each time is a lot. But Yagami Ryosuke now has more than 500,000 on him, which is enough for him to transform 50 times. So it doesn't feel bad. The 7th transformation. Night Kami Ryosuke has developed a very strong attribute. Divine Body Strength add 20,000%. This is a direct improvement on the original basis. Yagami Ryosuke felt that this attribute value was almost the upper limit of a single attribute in the 4 attribute super god level entry. After all, if it's more, it's a bit too much. For example, those entries that only have a single numerical bonus attribute only have a bonus value of 30,000%. And this entry for God of Transcendence. There are 4 bonus attributes of numerical types. If each one can be washed to 20,000%, that would be a total bonus of 80,000%. Isn't this outrageous? To know infinite energy that entry has only 1 attribute. In the end, the total bonus was only 60,000%. Continue. Ryosuke Yagami keeps up the good work. Continue to wash the other 3 attributes. Then, the 12th transformation physical fitness add 20,000%. 17th conversion bloodline power add 20,000%. 22nd conversion power of high god add 25,000%. Ryosuke Yagami wanted to take back his words. 20,000% is not the upper limit for a single attribute of a 4-attribute entry. To read cool novels, go to Feel a Novel Network. 25,000% is the answer. Look at the bonus value washed out by the attribute of High God's power. Ryosuke Yagami even had the urge to go back and wash the other 3 attributes again. However, considering that 220,000 experience points have been spent, the remaining experience points are only 310,000, which is only enough for 31 washes, and he still has several entries to wash. So, Ryosuke Yagami was curious and gave up the idea of doing it all over again. God of Transcendence, Super God level, you can transcend everything. The so-called upper limit, that's not your upper limit at all. The power of higher gods at 25,000%. Bloodline power at 20,000%. Physical fitness at 20,000%. Divine body strength at 20,000%. Looking at the final entry attributes, the total bonus reached an astonishing 85,000%. Yagami Ryosuke's face was filled with relief. The experience points he invested were all worth it. Next is the entry Transcendent. This entry only has a bonus attribute, which is convenient to wash. Ryosuke Yagami replaced the God of Transcendence entry on the entry converter with the Transcendent entry. Then he selected the attribute All-Round Strength at 30,000%. His thoughts turned into a finger. Lightly click on the convert button. For the first conversion, the bonus is reduced by 500%. For the second conversion, the bonus is increased by 3,000%. For the third conversion, after 8 transformations, Yagami Ryosuke reached out and rubbed his eyes. He looked at this attribute on the entry of Transcendent with a look of disbelief. I couldn't help but blurt out the words fuck. Transcendent, Super God level, your power has broken through the limits of this world, you have achieved a great transcendence, you have become an unprecedented existence in this world, and there is a high probability that you will never come again. Maybe you will be eliminated by the entire world remembered in the history of the world. All-round strength at 80,000%. Attached. A transcendent person. This, how high is the upper limit for Super God level entries? Ryosuke Yagami couldn't help but wonder if his previous estimates had underestimated the potential of Super God level entries. The original 30,000% bonus actually reached 80,000%. This is a dual attribute entry. No, a single attribute entry. Can it get such a high bonus? What is the maximum bonus that can be achieved for a truly single attribute entry? 100,000%? Or 120,000%. Ryosuke Yagami subconsciously took down the entry of Transcendent and replaced it with another entry of Infinite Energy. This entry is currently the only single attribute Super God level entry that Ryosuke Yagami has. Entry. After putting this entry up, Yagami Ryosuke selected its only attribute. Then clicked the convert button. Once. Twice. 3 times. After a total of 11 transformations. Yagami Ryosuke was just stop at this time. Infinite Energy. The attributes of the entry have changed drastically. Its original attribute was higher divine power recovery speed at 60,000%. But now, it has become higher divine power recovery speed at 150,000%. I actually underestimated it again. Ryosuke Yagami looked dumbfounded. Just now, he also speculated whether the upper limit of 437 would reach 100,000% or even 120,000%. Result. You turn around and give me an attribute with 150,000%? Slap in the face. What a slap in the face. But Ryosuke Yagami liked the slap in the face so much. Please come more often. Is the attribute of this entry going against the will of heaven? Ryosuke Yagami couldn't help but exclaimed in shock. Then he couldn't wait to put another entry higher divine body up again. This time, if he didn't wash out the bonus value of more than 80,000%, he won't stop. Start. Ryosuke Yagami pressed the transform button with red eyes. He was already on top. With the transformation again and again, the properties of higher divine body also changed again and again. From 30,000% bonus, to high it once reached 60,000%. At the lowest point, it was as low as 15,000%. Finally, when the attributes of this entry were completely formed, Ryosuke Yagami looked at the remaining experience points, and there were only more than 10,000 points left. It's just enough for one more transformation. Fortunately, the attributes of this entry have already taken shape. And it's better than Ryosuke Yagami wanted at the beginning. Advanced Divine Body, Super God level. Your Divine Body is extremely powerful, unmatched by anyone at the same level. Divine Body Strength at 85,000%. Attached, Advanced Divine Body. A single attribute bonus of 85,000%. This is a dual attribute entry. The previous bonus limit for dual attribute Super God level entries has been refreshed to 80,000%. And now, this height has been refreshed again. Moreover, in view of the fact that 85,000% seems a bit low, Ryosuke Yagami feels that it is not the upper limit of the bonus for dual attribute Super God level entries. Maybe 90,000%. It could be 100%. As for higher, it should be unlikely. After all, it is a dual attribute entry. 100,000%, which is a 1,000 times bonus, is already very abnormal. After all, a bonus of 1,500 times is likely to be the upper limit of a single attribute. Then, dual attributes are 500 times less than single attributes. As the upper limit of dual attribute entries, it should be almost the same. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 314. The next day, Ryosuke Yagami received a red envelope from Orochimaru in the afternoon. Inside the red envelope are 1,000 hairs. All of them come from clones with shadow level strength. After breaking down all these 1,000 hairs, Ryosuke Yagami also gained 950,000 experience points. Plus the more than 10,000 left yesterday. That's more than 960,000 experience points. It was enough for Ryosuke Yagami to wash the attributes of Super God level entries 96 times. Yesterday, Ryosuke Yagami estimated the upper limit of single attribute and dual attribute bonuses for Super God level entries. Today, he planned to practice it himself and see if it was as he guessed. As for accumulating attributes to synthesize supreme level entries, there is no shortage of these 2 days. Ryosuke, why do you look like you're not in a good mood? In the private room of the barbecue restaurant, Kusina put a piece of barbecue into Yagami Ryosuke's bowl and looked at her slightly depressed boyfriend and asked in confusion. It's okay, I just encountered some unhappy things. Ryosuke Yagami shook his head and said. He did encounter something unhappy. Because in the afternoon, he spent all 960,000 experience points, but in the end he failed to develop attributes that he was satisfied with. Throughout the afternoon, Yagami, Ryosuke is washing an entry. Advanced Divine Body entry. Ryosuke Yagami wants to develop 100% bonus attributes. It took me an entire afternoon to wash it. 960,000 experience points were spent. In the end, he only increased the bonus of the entry Higher Divine Body to 90,000%. He is still 10,000 short of his goal percent. I don't believe it anymore, let's continue tomorrow. Ryosuke Yagami decided that after tomorrow's 950,000 experience points are received, he will immediately continue to wash this entry. He must get a perfect attribute. Isn't it just a little experience point? Ryusuke Yagami is not bad at this. Half an hour later. Yagami, Ryusuke and Kushina were almost done eating. As a result, Mikoto belatedly walked into the box. "Sorry, I'm late," Mikoto said with an apologetic look. "Mikoto, you are too slow." Kushina's straightforward character means that she will not say any hypocritical polite words. But it is precisely because of Kushina's character that Mikoto and she became the best friends. Otherwise, the two of them, the relationship won't be so good either. "There is no way, something has temporarily delayed it," Mikoto said helplessly. "What is it? Is it convenient to say?" Ryusuke Yagami asked curiously. At this moment, he no longer thought about the bad experience in the afternoon. After all, he had decided to continue fighting tomorrow. Moreover, it was not completely fruitless today, was it? At least he had used both hands. The upper limit of attributes has been further increased to 90,000%. This is progress. Although it cost 960,000 experience points. But if you want to make progress, how can you not spend money? What's wrong with spending some experience points? That is necessary. In fact, it's nothing. It's just that the situation on the front-line battlefield is not very optimistic. Our Uchiha clan has to send people to the front line again, and this time I am also on the list," Mikoto said. "Ah! Mikoto, are you going to the battlefield?" Kushina said with a tone full of surprise. Then she showed an envious expression. "That's great, I want to go to the battlefield too." Kushina pouted with an unhappy look on her face. Her best friend was about to go to war, but as a result, she could only stay in the village all day. "This is too boring." "Kushina, you don't go to the battlefield just for fun," Mikoto said dumbfounded. She could probably understand Kushina's thoughts. But to be honest, she didn't really want to go to the battlefield if she could. But according to the clan, the Uchiha clan urgently needs to shine. My own muscles. And Mikoto, who awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan yesterday, is obviously the best candidate. Let Mikoto use the power of the Mangekyo to kill enemies on the battlefield and bring out the prestige of their Uchiha clan. When the time comes, the villages, how dare the higher UPS continue to target them. However, this is actually only the reason that Mikoto knows. The real reason is that Uchiha Madara wants her to go to the battlefield to experience it. After all, as the younger generation, he is the only one who has awakened the kaleidoscope. Uchiha Madara also intentionally wanted to cultivate Uchiha Mikoto. Especially after learning about her Ijutsu ability. Uchiha Madara felt that Uchiha Mikoto was definitely capable of becoming the strongest being in the Uchiha clan after him. Of course, the truly most powerful person in the Uchiha clan is always himself. In this regard, Uchiha Madara is still very confident. After all, he has awakened a higher level I like the Rinnegan. There is no way he can lose to him. One of his own juniors. He learned that Mikoto would follow the team to the front line Kumigakure battlefield tomorrow. Kushina also pulled Mikoto and kept asking questions. Kushina had always been full of curiosity about the battlefield. However, Mikoto, she had never been on the battlefield. She couldn't tell Kushina what the real battlefield was like. She could only say that she would describe it to Kushina after she came back. So, when the three of them came out of the barbecue restaurant, Kushina still looking reluctant to leave. "Mikoto, you must be careful when you go to the battlefield. We agreed that you should come back and tell me interesting things on the battlefield." Kushina held Mikoto's hand, and she didn't show any worry until this moment. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Fila Novel Network. After all, the situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly, even if you know that Mikoto has awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan has shadow level strength. But Kushina is still a little worried about her safety. "Don't worry, You also know my eye skills, there will be no problem. Mikoto gently patted the back of Kushina's hand and said. Then she subconsciously looked at Ryusuke Yagami's side. Be careful. Ryusuke Yagami looked at her and said. Mikoto nodded lightly. I'm leaving. I have to prepare some things. Well, Ryusuke and I will go see you off tomorrow morning. Kushina waved her hand and looked at Mikoto walking away before putting her hand down. Ryusuke, do you think Mikoto will be in danger? On the way home, Kushina held Yagami Ryusuke's arm, still worried about Mikoto's safety. There shouldn't be any danger, after all, Mikoto's pupil technique is best for saving lives. Ryusuke Yagami said. But these words were actually to comfort Kushina. After all, it was the Kyomagakure battlefield. Almost everyone in the ninja world knew the virtues of Kyomagakure's group of lunatics. Fighting means risking one's life. Moreover, ninjutsu is very strong. Especially the Yondaime Reikage who just came to power. If Mikoto encounters an enemy like the Yondaime Reikage, her pupil technique may not really be able to help her. After all, Mikoto's pupil technique has obvious shortcomings. In addition, ordinary kaleidoscopes cannot use the pupil technique for a long time. Otherwise, it will only increase the speed of blindness. Don't lose your eyes after a battle. No, I'm still worried about Mikoto. Kushina was still worried, and then she raised her head and looked at Yagami Ryusuke beside her. Ryusuke, you are so powerful, why don't you go to the front line to help protect Mikoto? Kushina said. You want me to protect Mikoto? Ryusuke Yagami didn't expect Kushina to say that. Yes. Kushina nodded and said, Ryusuke, don't you know how to fly the Thunder God? If Mikoto is in danger, you can take her away as soon as possible. I really don't feel comfortable letting Mikoto go to the battlefield alone. It's a pity that I can't go to the battlefield. Otherwise, if Mikoto and I cooperate, then it will definitely be fine. Kushina said. Yagami Ryusuke looked at her and said to himself, it will really be a problem if you go, right? After all, Kushina's irritable character may cause some trouble. On the contrary, Mikoto herself would definitely not be so impulsive. And what does it mean to be Mikoto alone? The entire Uchiha clan has sent many people to join us, okay. Not to mention the troops on the front line. Why did he become one person? In fact, Konoha sent quite a few masters to the Kyomagakure battlefield on the front line. It's not just cage-level powerhouses like Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato. There are also high-end elite ninjas like Ino Ludai. If it weren't for Yunyan's strength being really strong. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki in Konoha has just completed the handover and has not yet been able to send it to the battlefield for use. Money. I'm afraid this battle has already been fought and over. Okay, I will protect Mikoto in secret when the time comes. Yagami Ryusuke saw that Kushina was so worried, and he also felt that Mikoto was not safe on the Kyomagakure battlefield, so he nodded and agreed to Kushina's request. However, I promised you to protect Mikoto, so should you also promise me something? Ryusuke Yagami suddenly looked at Kushina with a smile and said. Ah, Kushina suddenly had a bad feeling. She hesitated and said that, what do you want me to promise? Ryusuke Yagami lowered his head and said something in her ear. In an instant, Kushina's face turned red. No, that's too. Kushina quickly wanted to refuse. But when she raised her head and met Ryusuke Yagami's eyes, Kushina suddenly felt guilty again. Then I can only promise you one of them. Kushina argued with reason. Can. Ryusuke Yagami agreed simply. He never thought that Kushina would agree to everything. After all, those advanced knowledge are indeed a bit beyond Kushina's ability. You have to do it step by step. And Yagami Ryusuke, on the other hand, will help her learn those advanced knowledge step by step. Mao. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 315. The next day, Konoha once again organized a team and rushed to the front line battlefield. Most of them are ninjas from various ninja clans, and the largest ones are Uchiha and Hinata. Countless villagers came to see the team off. Heitake Sakumo, the fourth Hokage, also came in person and gave a speech. Ryosuke Yagamai and Kushina were standing in the crowd. This was the first time he saw Sakumo Heitake with such a serious look. The usual Heitake Sakumo is actually a bit unserious, and even gradually has a tendency to develop into a fun person. However, once it comes to serious occasions, Heitake Sakumo will become serious and indifferent again. Ryosuke Yagamai sometimes wonders if he has a split personality. Wait until Heitake Sakumo's speech is finished. It's time for this team to set off. In the crowd, Kushina waved her arms vigorously and said goodbye to Mikoto in the team. Mikoto also looked towards the two of them, smiled and waved to them. Mikoto, you must kill more Kyumo ninjas. Kushina shouted. Mikoto. She looked dumbfounded at Kushina, who was jumping up and down over there. As the team got further and further away, she gradually lost sight of the scene at the entrance of the village. Next, it's time to go to the battlefield. Mikoto withdrew her gaze, inexplicably feeling a little expectant in her heart. Ryosuke, it's up to you. Among the dispersed crowd, Kuna took Yagamai Ryosuke's hand and said, Don't worry, I put a Konoha with the Flying Thunder God's mark in the starting team, and I'll go there when they get there. Ryosuke Yagamai rubbed Kushina's hair, messing up her fiery red hair. Kushina laughed and was not angry, but stood up on tiptoes and kissed him. Brush. 2. The person's figure disappeared instantly. Not far away. Heitake Sakumo had complicated eyes when he saw this scene. Several times he had the urge to open the chat group and have a good chat with Minato. But in the end he suppressed it. Forget it, it's better not to cause trouble for yourself. Heitake Sakumo thought. On the other side, Yagamai Ryosuke, who brought Kushina back home, planned to teach Kushina some advanced knowledge while the team rushing to the front line was still on the way in the past 2 days. Although Kushina said it was not good to do it in broad daylight, Yagamai Ryosuke was very insistent. 573. So Kushina half-heartedly agreed to him. At night, Kushina had fallen asleep after studying hard. And Ryosuke Yagamai is lying awake in bed, transforming the entry higher divine body. Today's 950,000 experience points have not been used up yet. Mainly because Ryosuke Yagamai was busy teaching Kyokusen during the day, he had no time to study. There was no time to convert the attributes of the entries. Now that he had finished studying, Kushina fell asleep from exhaustion. Only then did he have time to use up the 950,000 experience points today. The 950,000 experience points are only 95, it's just a transformation. In fact, it can be used up very quickly. However, every time Ryosuke Yagamai transforms, he will stop for a moment. Then he will continue to transform. It is called euphemistically, this way, it can transform into better attributes. Although Yagamai Ryosuke himself didn't know if this was useful. But what if? What if it works? Right? Therefore, we still need to pay attention to metaphysics. 1000 times bonus, give it to me. Ryosuke Yagamai murmured in a low voice while pressing the transform button. As a light flashed, the new entry attributes were also generated. Divine body strength at 86,000%. A silly sentence almost blurted out. But Ryosuke Yagamai still calmed himself down. It probably stopped for a minute or two before continuing with the next conversion. After transformation again and again, I saw that the 950,000 experience points were about to bottom out. But the 1000 times bonus that Ryosuke Yagami wanted has still not appeared yet. Do we have to wait until tomorrow? Ryosuke Yagami thought. At this moment, Ryosuke Yagami, who was about to press the transform button subconsciously, suddenly trembled. Don't. He stopped quickly. He looked carefully at the attributes transformed this time. Divine body strength at 100%. Coming. It's finally here. 1000 times the perfect attributes. It finally appeared. Ryosuke Yagami was so moved that he almost burst into tears. Is it easy for him? Over 2 days, more than 1 million experience points were spent. Every time he waited for a good result, but every time he was disappointed. Fortunately, Huangtian pays off. God finally opened his eyes. Let him develop this perfect attribute. Now, Ryosuke Yagami can die in peace. This is an exaggeration. The main reason is that Yagami Ryosuke is a little excited now. Of course it is impossible to die or not. However, it is indeed not easy. After all, it took so much experience points, and today's 950,000 experience points are almost exhausted. Fortunately, he finally got a good result before he ran out. Good guy, I still have 60,000 experience points left. We almost have to wait until tomorrow again. Ryosuke Yagami looked at his experience point balance and found that there was only 60,000 left. Today he spent another 890,000 experience points. But the good news is that he successfully washed out the entry higher divine body perfect attributes. Although the previous 90,000% bonus is only a 100-fold bonus away from perfect attributes, it seems that there is no need to be so serious. But Ryosuke Yagami wants a perfect attribute. He is not I don't have the capital to pursue perfect attributes. Since I have the capital, why not? It's nothing more than spending more experience points and wasting a little time. Just for fun. As the saying goes, money can't buy me happy. With Ryosuke Yagami current status, you can do this. There is no need to pay attention to cost effectiveness. The next day, to read Bao's Huang novels, go to Fila Novel Network. Ryosuke Yagami used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to take a look. I found that yesterday the one that started out had not yet reached the Kyomagakure battlefield on the front line. So he returned to Konoha and continued to guide Kushina in learning advanced knowledge. Another plain and simple day passed. In the evening, Ryosuke Yagami looked at the experience value balance of 1.01 million on the book, and then glanced at his super god level entries. Finally decided to clean up the transcendent entry first. The attribute of all-round strength bonus will never be outdated. What's more, the attributes of this entry have only been washed to 80,000%. There is still 20,000% potential. Wash it immediately. Ryosuke Yagami immediately moved the entry for Transcendent to the entry in the converter, select the attribute of all-round strength and start training. Once, twice, 3 times. Practice again and again. Yagami Ryosuke's mood also had ups and downs. After a while, a good attribute bonus appeared, and another one became super crotch stretching. Wait until 101 times of training is completed. Ryosuke Yagami did not develop perfect attributes in the end. I can only wait until tomorrow to continue. It should be washed out tomorrow. Ryosuke Yagami thought to himself. He is confident in his luck. After all, a 120 times bonus. Unfortunately, if a god level entry is directly upgraded to god level, it will cost 10 million experience points, which is a bit much. Ryosuke Yagami looked at the items on the equipment entry list. Lucky star entry. In fact, he really wanted to upgrade this entry. But the experience points required for upgrading are a bit too much. But now, the attributes of Ryosuke Yagami's entry are a bit over the top. He thought that after he washed the attributes of the entry transcendent to perfect attributes, he would then save 10 million experience points to upgrade the level of the entry lucky star. Soon, I will start saving the day after tomorrow. If I make 950,000 a day, it will only take 11 days, very fast. Ryosuke Yagami thought to himself. It was only 11 days, it passed in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day again. Ryosuke Yagami went back to his ninja world and dealt with some things. Then only then did he return to the parallel world where Hatake Sakumo was. He used the Flying Thunder God technique to go to the team that set out the day before yesterday. Ryosuke Yagami also discovered that they had arrived at the Kyomagakure battlefield on the front line and had just entered Momo. Yes, camp here. Is there going to be a battle so soon? Ryosuke Yagami saw the ninja troops who had just entered the camp for repairs for a while. Soon, under the mobilization of the front-line commander Jiraiya, they began to leave the camp in batches. On the other side, Kyomagakure's camp. There are also a large number of Kyomo ninjas mobilizing. The figure of Ryosuke Yagami appears in the sky. He overlooks the battlefield below from a high position. The entire battlefield is in a huge forest, and the battle between the two sides is basically in small teams. The battle was going on. Mikoto, who was on the battlefield for the first time, was a little uncomfortable at first. She made a lot of small mistakes. She was almost attacked by the Kyomo ninja on the opposite side. However, Mikoto's strength has reached the cage level after all. Therefore, even though he was a little uncomfortable, he was not really injured. On the contrary, the Kyomo ninja team on the opposite side was quickly eliminated after Mikoto broke out. And those on the same team as Mikoto were all Uchiha, a clan of ninjas. They were all very excited after seeing the powerful strength shown by Mikoto. The Mangekyo Sharinan is indeed very powerful. Nonsense. That is the legendary Eye of God. This time it's our Uchiha's turn to rise. Kill these Kyomo ninjas. The ninjas of the Uchiha clan are all a little over the top. They are as if they have been injected with chicken blood, and they look fierce and unafraid of death. Mikoto does not seem to be infected by these Uchiha of the same clan. She also killed the opponent in a short time. The Kyomo ninja were defeated. One after another, the Kyomo ninja teams were killed by Mikoto's team, and the movement here finally attracted the attention of Kyomo Hidden. Damn the Uchiha clan! The Yondaime Raikage's whole body was wrapped with thunder and lightning. He glanced over there and said fiercely. However, he couldn't spare the energy to deal with the ninjas of the Uchiha clan at this moment. After all, his opponents at this time also had Namikaze Minato, who has cage-level strength. On the other side, his good brother Kiribi was also held back by Jiraiya. There was no way he could go over to help. Raikage, you should take care of yourself. The figure of Namikaze Minato suddenly appeared behind Raikage, and a blue raise-non in his hand instantly hit his back. Don't even think about it. The Raikage punched out, and the violent force directly exploded Namikaze Minato's raise-non, and then blasted towards Namikaze Minato with unabated force. Brush. Namikaze Minato's figure disappeared instantly. He hit again. Activate Raikage's attack. Hateful. Do you only know how to hide? If you have the ability to fight me openly like a man. The angry Raikage roared loudly. However, Namikaze Minato is not stupid. Want to fight head-on with Raikage? His brain is not broken yet, so there is no way he would do such a stupid thing. There aren't any good ninjas on Kyomagakure's side. Ryosuke Yagami observed this battle from a god's perspective. The situation was obviously more favorable to Konoha's side. As for Kyomagakure's side, it had been completely suppressed. If nothing else, an accident was going to happen. Yakami Ryosuke's eyes looked in another direction. There, A figure exuding a powerful chakra aura was quickly approaching the location of Mikato's team. The two-tailed Jinchuriki. Ryosuke Yagami looked at this Jinchuriki who had never appeared in his memory with some surprise. The two-tailed Jinchuriki of this parallel world was not Yukato. Of course. Yukato was still young at this time. Even if it is really the two-tailed Jinchuriki, there is a high probability that he will not be sent to the battlefield. And now this second-tailed Jinchuriki who was fighting towards Mikato and the others was a man who looked to be in his 20s or 30s. At this time, he has entered the tailed beast chakra mode, and his speed is astonishing. Even the shadow-level ninja cannot keep up with his speed. Only cages like Reikage, Namikaze Minato, and Heitake Sakumo, who have extremely fast nerve reactions, can keep up with this guy's speed. It looks like Mikato is going to be in trouble. Ryosuke Yagami muttered. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 316. In the forest. A large number of trees were broken by violent force. The rocks blocking the road were violently blasted into rubble by fists. The two-tailed Jinchuriki, shrouded in a layer of tailed beast chakra, is like a raging bull, knocking away any obstacles blocking his path. Konoha's awful. Die. The two-tailed Jinchuriki who have entered the tailed beast chakra mode are unprecedentedly powerful. Each punch and kick contains explosive power. The first to bear the brunt are the two Jounin of the Uchiha clan. Fire escape -- the art of dragon flame singing. Uchiha Fire Sword. When the two Jounin of the Uchiha clan saw this blue-black monster coming, they immediately took action to block it. But the next second, boom. The released fire style was directly hit by the two-tailed Jinchuriki into sparks all over the sky, and another Uchiha Jounin sword slashed him, and sparks suddenly flew out. Die for me. The two-tailed Jinchuriki roared angrily, punching one after another, and instantly beat the two Jounin of the Uchiha clan into two pieces of rotten flesh and flew out. Bang, bang. The two figures flew upside down and broke several big trees, and then it hit the ground hard, and it was no longer human at all. What kind of monster is this? Damn it! It's the second-tailed Jinchuriki of Kumagakure village. How come? Why didn't we get the message? Block him. Several ninjas from the Uchiha clan gritted their teeth and rushed forward to stop the two-tailed Jinchuriki of the hidden cloud village opposite. But the strength gap between the two sides was too big. The two-tailed Jinchuriki on the opposite side was in the tailed beast chakra mode. The strength has surpassed the average cage level peak. How can these Uchiha clan Jounin and elite Jonin stop it? In fact, among the entire frontline troops of Konoha, only Jiraiya and Nami Feng Shui the door, and Uchiha Mikato, who just joined the battlefield, can resist this guy. Everyone else has no chance. How terrifying is a violent Jinchuriki? What's even more terrifying is that this Jinchuriki itself has a shadow level strength. Again, with the blessing of the tailed beast chakra mode, it is so powerful that even Kiribi at this stage dare not say that he can win. After all, Kiribi still has room for growth in the future and has not yet reached the peak of his strength. But this two-tailed Jinchuriki is different. His strength is already at the peak of his life. Now is when he is the most powerful. In the entire Kumagakure village, except for the fourth-generation Reikage whose strength is equal to him. Others, who he is not his opponent. Of course, if the eight-tailed ox ghost goes berserk, he will definitely not be able to stop it. After all, it is already a super shadow level power. Even if it is just a super shadow level floor tile, that is super cage level. And this two-tailed Jinchuriki is the invincible strength of cage level. It is not even close to the super cage level. Let alone a true super cage level. Die. Die. Die for me. The two-tailed Jinchuriki frantically slaughtered the surrounding Uchiha clan Jounin. These usually powerful Uchiha clan Jounins are so fragile at this moment in the hands of the two-tailed Jinchuriki of this cloud-hidden village. With just one blow, a jounin of the Uchiha clan was seriously injured or even killed directly. Just when Mikoto was frightened and furious, she was about to take action. A jounin of the Uchiha clan who was in the same team as her had already most of them were killed. Stop! Mikoto rushed forward instantly. She was the only one in the team whose strength reached the cage level. At this time, facing this crazy two-tailed Jinchuriki, she was the only one who could barely block the opponent's violent attack. Court death. The eyes of the two-tailed Jinchuriki flashed with terrifying murderous intent. When he saw Mikoto rushing up, he grinned and waved his claws. A layer of black energy lingered on the surface of the blue claws. This is the power of the two-tailed Jinchuriki. Any targets below the shadow level will at least end up with serious injuries after being injured. Bang! The figures of both sides collided instantly, and then exploded back more than 10 meters away. The second-tailed Jinchuriki looked at the Konoha kunoichi opposite him in surprise. It actually blocked it? He looked at his claws and was very surprised. At this time, there was also a white chakra surging around Mikoto's body, which appeared into a thick skeleton arm. It was the skeleton just now. The arm blocked the attack of the two-tailed Jinchuriki. That is, the Mangekyo Sharinan of the Uchiha clan. The second-tailed Jinchuriki looked at the eyes of the kunoichi opposite him in surprise. Unexpectedly, after many years, someone in the Uchiha clan would awaken these eyes again, and she was a woman. The second-tailed Jinchuriki said with a ferocious smile, however, "How much power can you exert with the newly awakened Mangekyo Sharinan? Can you tell how much I can achieve by trying it?" Mikoto's sharp eyes were completely different from her usual gentle demeanor. "Ha! Don't think that just because you blocked one of my attacks, you really think you can beat me. Smelly woman, if you want to defeat me, you're still too early." The two-tailed Jinchuriki roared, and with a bang, the ground beneath his feet exploded, and he rushed towards Mikoto on the opposite side in an instant. Bang! 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 The figures of the two sides collided again and again in the forest, and in the blink of an eye they were already there. They fought for 20 or 30 times. The two-tailed Jinchuriki was faster than Mikoto. But Mikoto's Susanoo could easily block the opponent's attack after turning on its own armor state. Even without any defense, there was no fear at all. This gave Mikoto more confidence, so she simply gave up any defensive means and directly launched a crazy wave of attacks towards the two-tailed Jinchuriki on the opposite side. Those Uchiha who were still alive also followed suit. "Move away some distance. Don't dare to get close to this battlefield. Mikoto-sama, come on. Kill this monster." To read exciting novels, go to Fila Novel Network. Susanoo. That is Susanoo of our Uchiha clan. Mikoto-sama can even use Susanoo, she will definitely win this time. A few injured Uchiha jounin shouted excitedly. Even their companions on the side couldn't pull them to calm down. They were too excited. This is Susanoo. It is the ultimate power of their Uchiha clan. In the past, they had only seen records related to it from the mouths of their elders and in some texts. This is the first time they have seen the real Susanoo. Oh my god! Look! Look at the white armor and the white bones. It's so beautiful. In the sky. Ryusuke Yagamai observed the battle below. He thought Mikoto would be no match for the two-tailed Jinchuriki. They were all ready to help. But the result was unexpected. Mikoto turned out to be quite talented in fighting. She actually fought back and forth with the opponent, and even suppressed the opponent at one point. Sure. Ryusuke. Yagamai said with a smile. Unexpectedly, Mikoto actually has a talent for fighting. Being a housewife is a complete waste of her real talent. However, Yagamai Ryusuke has never seen what Mikoto is like in other parallel worlds. It is not clear whether all Uchiha Mikotos have such outstanding fighting talents. Or are only a few of them. But no matter what, so Uchiha Mikoto in this world now does have outstanding fighting talents, and she has not married Uchiha Fugaku and become a housewife who will only care for her husband and raise children in the future. I haven't educated my son well yet. By the way, why not start a live broadcast? There happens to be a 7th and 8th generation in the group. Ryosuke Yagamai had a sudden thought, and then directly opened the chat group and turned on the live broadcast function. In an instant, other Hokage in the chat group also received notifications that Ryosuke Yagamai started the live broadcast. This is Ryosuke Yagamai's first started the live broadcast for the first time. Coupled with his status as the first person in the group, he instantly attracted other Hokages to enter the live broadcast room to watch. First Hokage Senju Hashirama, haha. I am the first. Yadam Hokage Uchiha Sarana, hehe. I was the second one to come in. Hashirama-sama is so fast. Have you been staring at the chat group? First Hokage Uchiha Madara, boring. If you continue to be so lazy, Hasalama, you will never be able to surpass me. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, wait. Who is this person in the forest below? 4th Hokage Hatake Sakumo, it's Uchiha Mikoto, I didn't expect her to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, mom. Yadam Hokage Uchiha Sarana, is that grandma? The 6th Hokage Hatake Kakashi. 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobirama, is he Uchiha Madara's descendant? He has also awakened such sinful eyes, 7th generation Hokage Uchiha Sasuke Nidame, please speak with respect. That's my mother. The 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 7th generation. How can you talk to the 2nd generation? And I think teacher Tobirama is right, the Sharingan is indeed the eye of evil. Yadam Hokage Uchiha Sarana Tisk. This guy of yours is the least qualified to say whether it is sinful or not, right? Sandame Hokage Shimura Danzo Hirazan, we are all in the same group, how can you talk like this? The 1st Hokage Uchiha Madara Trash Tobirama. Take care of your trash disciple. If I see this guy coming out in a weird way again, don't blame me for being rude. 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobirama. Madara, it's not your turn to teach my disciples a lesson. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 317. Ryosuke Yagamai glanced at the few people in the live broadcast room who seemed to be arguing again, and smiled and said, okay, you guys don't argue enough every day. But Sasuke and Sarana, please don't scream nonsense. Except for the name and appearance of the Uchiha Mikoto below, which is more like the one you think, there is basically nothing similar about her. Ryosuke Yagamai said. 7th generation Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, why do you say that? Are you referring to the pair of kaleidoscopes? Yagamai Ryosuke looked at it, shook his head and said, no, I mean, Mikoto in this world is not with you. Father Uchiha Fugaku is together. Uchiha Sasuke. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, how is this possible? Isn't that true? Yes, there is a high probability that you and your filial brother will no longer exist in this world. Ryosuke Yagamai nodded. Yadam Hokage Uchiha Sarana, doesn't that mean there is no me anymore? How fresh, it would definitely be without you. Ryosuke Yagamai said, moreover, in fact, not only this world, but also the world where Sasuke is in the group, there will be no you. Haven't you realized it yet? Yadam Hokage Uchiha Sarana, yes. The dad in the group is with Uncle Naruto. The 7th generation Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, it's Naruto. Naruto, the 7th generation Hokage, the parallel world where Uchiha Sasuke lives. Uchiha clan land. Sasuke, who was sitting in the yard, listening to the sound of the water wheel, was twitching his eyelids at the words 683 said by his daughter in the parallel world in the chat group. Naruko. That's Naruko Uzumaki? Not some Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke took a deep breath, feeling that if they continued talking, even he would find it difficult to look directly at his wife. Obviously Naruko is so cute. How could it be a man in other worlds? This is unreasonable. This is unreasonable. Sasuke, so you are here. At this time, a woman with blonde hair and twin tails came over and gently hugged Sasuke from behind. Sasuke, guess who I am? Naruko stretched out her hand to cover Sasuke's eyes like a prank. Naruko, stop making trouble. Sasuke was not in the mood to play around with Naruko at the moment. He reached out and took away Naruko's hands covering his eyes while looking at her. What's wrong? Why do you look a little unhappy? Naruko looked at him doubtfully. Not happy? That's right. They were all made angry by these people in the group. It's nothing, I just encountered something unhappy. Sasuke Yao said. How about I tell you a happy thing? Naruko said as she leaned into Sasuke's arms, gently touching his chest with her fingers little by little, and said softly, Sasuke, I have it again. Sasuke. Am I going to be a dad again? Sasuke said in surprise. Yes. Naruko nodded, looked at him with a smile and asked, how is it, not happy? Well, I'm so happy. Sasuke happily hugged Naruko, then stretched out his hand to gently touch his wife's belly. Do you feel it? Sasuke asked. Fool, it's only been 3 months, how can it be so fast? Naruko smiled and rolled her eyes at him. However, I have a hunch that this time it will be a daughter. Naruko said. Daughter? Sasuke subconsciously thought of the Sarana in the group. Naruko, what do you think of the name Sarana? Sasuke asked subconsciously. Zorana? Naruko thought for a moment, not bad. Sasuke, have you even thought of our daughter's name in advance? Sasuke didn't know how to explain it. He couldn't say that he had a daughter named Uchiha Sarana in another world, right? Then Naruko had to tear him apart. Sasuke couldn't help but feel a little trembling at the thought of Naruko being angry. So. Just pretend that you came up with it yourself. That's decided. Naruko said, if it is a daughter, her name will be Uchiha Sarana. Have you decided? I just asked casually. Why did you decide? Sasuke felt that he had shot himself in the foot. If people in the group knew that he had named his little daughter Uchiha Sarana, will anyone misunderstand her? Forget it, as long as I don't tell anyone, no one will know. Sasuke comforted himself. In the live broadcast room, Sasuke suddenly stopped talking, which made Sarana think that she had angered her father in another world. Others, at the moment, were watching the battle in the forest below, while commenting and analyzing who will win in the end. The first Hokage Uchiha Madara, the descendant of the Uchiha clan, will definitely not lose. I am just a two-tailed Jinchuriki. In front of the kaleidoscope, I am my younger brother. The second Hokage Senju Tobirama. It's hard to say. Although it seems that Uchiha Mikoto has the advantage now, her eyes are just ordinary kaleidoscopes. How long can the pupil power last? I see, the person who wins in the end will definitely win. It's this two-tailed Jinchuriki. The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. I support Tobirama sensei. This Uchiha Mikoto looks like he is holding on. His Mangekyo has probably just awakened not long ago, and he cannot sustain a long-term battle at all. Sandaime Hokage Shimura Danzo. Although I don't like your tone Hiruzen, I also support Mr. Tobirama on this matter. 5th generation Hokage Tsunade. It's so boring, you guys, I'm just Uchiha Mikoto. Nothing else. As a woman, I must support Mikoto, who is also a woman. Besides, have you made a mistake? That one on the other side, it's Kumo Ninja, Mikoto is one of us. The fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato I think, actually, with Ryusuke present, even if something unexpected happens, the two-tailed Jinchuriki will definitely lose. Second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama yeah, I forgot to include this additional factor. First Hokage Senju Hashirama haha. It must be us from Konoha who win. Just Kyomagaku what little Karami. Just when the Hokages in the group were arguing about who lost and who won. The battle in the forest below has also reached its final stage. As Mikoto punched the two-tailed Jinchuriki on the opposite side, the white Susanna around her also disintegrated on the spot with a burst of clicking sounds. It wasn't that her Susanna couldn't bear this level of fighting. But Mikoto's eye power was consumed too much and she could no longer maintain Susanna's existence. She staggered and knelt on the ground. 2 lines of blood and tears flowed down from his eyes. My vision is blurred. He should be dead, right? Mikoto raised her head and looked into the distance with difficulty. In the forest, at the end of a straight destruction zone, the figure buried under a pile of gravel and soil suddenly moved. Then, boom! The ruins exploded. The two-tailed Jinchuriki, filled with tailed beast chakra, roared out from under the ruins. You scumbag of Konoha, I'm not dead yet. The two Jinchuriki are really invincible. They were beaten so many times by Mikoto Susanna. They can still stand without much loss in combat power. Of course. This is also due to the fact that Mikoto's eye power is not enough. There are more, and Susan's proficiency is not enough, and he can only support a half-length Susan with Karatengu armor. If she can hold on for a little longer, or she can unlock a higher level of Susan, then this two-tailed the Jinchuriki would have been destroyed by her long ago. Also, the kaleidoscope itself has a strong restraint effect on the tailed beasts. If the two tails and its Jinchuriki were not in the tailed beast chakra mode at this moment. In fact, just look at it, maybe you can control the two tails. This is the difference between Jinchuriki and tailed beasts without Jinchuriki. To deal with tailed beasts without Jinchuriki, the Uchiha clan said secondly, only Senju Hashirama dares to say that he is number 1. Others. None of them have this qualification. Even the sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan has a strong restraint effect on tailed beasts, but no matter how strong it is not as powerful as the Mangekyo Sharingan. It's so simple and direct. With just one look, the tailed beast turns into an obedient pet. How can this be compared? To read exciting novels, go to Philu Novel Network. Boom! Amidst the smoke and dust, a figure jumped up high, laughing wildly and crashed onto the ground in front of Mikoto. A deep pit was made on the ground. The second-tailed Jinchuriki standing in the pit was grinning and walking towards Mikoto step by step. Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan turns out to be worse than this. The second-tailed Jinchuriki said proudly. Evil. Mikoto gritted her teeth and wanted to stand up. But she had just consumed too much chakra and eye power. Now her body was weak. Let alone fight with the two-tailed Jinchuriki in front of her. Even if she wanted to, it was very difficult to stand up. When the ninjas of the Uchiha clan not far away saw this, they also roared angrily, scolding the two-tailed Jinchuriki to stop, and rushed forward to try to stop him. Get out of here! The second-tailed Jinchuriki waved his hand, and instantly a force of power blasted away the Uchiha ninjas that rushed up. No one can save you today. The second-tailed Jinchuriki said with a ferocious smile. Mikoto was almost desperate. Unexpectedly, she encountered such a life-and-death crisis on her first day on the battlefield. She had obviously awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. It was obvious that she had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. She already has shadow-level strength. But, why did he still lose so easily? And, still on the first day of coming to the battlefield? Isn't this too unlucky? While Mikoto silently mourned her bad luck in her heart, she watched the two-tailed Jinchuriki approaching step by step, secretly accumulating her last strength. Even if she were to die here today, she would never let him have an easy time. I will bite off a piece of your flesh even if I die. At this moment, boom. A figure suddenly fell from the sky, stepped on the head of the two-tailed Jinchuriki, and directly stepped his head into the ground. What did you just say? Yagami Ryusuke said with a smile, no one can save her today, are you serious? Ryusuke. Mikoto looked at Ryusuke Yagami, who suddenly appeared in surprise. She followed with a surprise expression on her face. Yo. Sister Mikoto, are you okay? Ryusuke. Yagami said hello with a smile. It's okay, but it's just a bit out of control. Mikoto shook her head and said. At this time, the two-tailed Jinchuriki on the ground, whose head was stepped on by Yagami Ryusuke and stepped into the ground, also struggled hard. Asshole! Do you dare to step on my head? He roared angrily, the tailed beast chakra on his body surged like a burning flame. However, this is of no use. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't move at all. Can't you step on your head? Ryusuke Yagami looked down at him 5.0, and lightly rubbed his feet. I stepped on it again now, what are you going to do? He asked with a smile. Hateful. The two-tailed Jinchuriki roared with eyes split open, his eyes flashed with crazy eyes, and he opened his mouth directly, and a tailed beast jade gradually formed in his mouth. This is, are you ready to die together with Ryusuke Yagami? The little cat is naughty. Ryusuke Yagami laughed. Then he put a little force on his foot. Click. The head of this two-tailed Jinchuriki sunk directly into a large piece. The tailed beast jade that had just condensed half of it also naturally dissipated. Moved his feet, Ryusuke Yagami kicked away the two-tailed Jinchuriki, who was trampled to death. The opponent's body rolled and rolled out about 10 meters away. The surrounding ninjas of the Uchiha clan were all surprised, looking at this scene with a look of disbelief. At this moment, Mikoto also recovered some strength and stood up. She looked at Yagami Ryusuke in front of her, and suddenly hugged him. Ryusuke, thank you. Mikoto hugged Ryusuke Yagami and said in his ear. You're welcome. Yagami Ryusuke himself was a little surprised. Moreover, he remembered that he seemed to be live broadcasting, right? Is that right? Really? He glanced at the chat group. In just 2 or 3 seconds, Uchiha Sasuke in the group had already sent 4 messages in succession. But this guy is in a hurry. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 318. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke asshole. What are you doing? What are you doing? 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, let go. Let go of your hand. 7th generation Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, I don't allow you to do this. Don't. Don't. The 4th Hokage Hatake Sakumo. The 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato ahem. Well, Sasuke, why don't you calm down a little bit? In fact, I think Uchiha Mikoto in this world should just be grateful to Ryusuke for saving her, nothing else. The 4th Hokage Hatake Sakumo. 6th generation Hokage Hatake Kakashi, Dad, why are you acting weird? The 4th Hokage Hatake Sakumo, it's okay, I just think Minato is right. I really don't mean anything else. Moreover, in fact, these are 2 people in 2 different worlds. Sasuke, don't be too empathetic. Yes. So does everyone else. The 6th Hokage Ryusuke Yagami, hey. It's so lively. 7th generation Hokage Uchiha Sasuke Yagami Ryusuke. Please let go of my mother. The 6th Hokage Ryusuke Yagami Sasuke, you are very brave. And, didn't I tell you, Mikoto is not your mother. If you miss your mother, you can resurrect the mother of your own world. Don't mess around, hey, touch porcelain. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke asshole. Do you think I don't want to? But I can't do 21 at all. First Hokage Uchiha Madara, why can't you do it? Resurrecting a dead person should be an easy thing for you who has awakened the samsara eye. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, but my mother's body has been burned. First Hokage Uchiha Madara, that's it, then there's nothing we can do about it. 6th generation Hokage Hatake Kakashi Sasuke, you should calm down. Ryusuke is right. This Mikoto is not your mother. She is just a person who looks very similar to your mother. 7th Hokage Uchiha Sasuke, damn it. Obviously she, okay, I'll calm down a bit, but please don't do that in front of me again. 6th generation Hokage Ryusuke Yagamai, are you teaching me how to do things? 6th generation Hokage Hatake Kakashi Ryusuke, don't be angry, Sasuke is still a child, he just didn't understand it for a while, he was too excited. Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato, yes, Ryusuke, don't take it to heart, Sasuke won't do this again next time. The first Hokage Uchiha Madara, this junior of mine may be a little irrational, and I hope Mr. Ryusuke can forgive him a little more. 6th generation Hokage Yagamai forgives, haha. Look, I scared you, I was just joking. The 4th Hokage Hatake Sakumo. Joke. Hee. Only a fool would believe it. The other Hokage who peeked at the screen shook their heads when they saw this sentence. They are not stupid, and of course they will not believe such nonsense. However, what happened today should be considered over. Fortunately, the Uchiha Sasuke in the group still has some sense. Otherwise, are they really worried about what Ryusuke Yagamai will do next? Although the chat group has rules, you cannot directly harm the group members themselves. But this directness is very spiritual. What is direct? Doing it yourself is called directness. What if it's someone else's fake hand? Is it a violation? That obviously doesn't count. Although the Uchiha Sasuke in the group is also quite strong. The peak of the 6th path level can be said to be very powerful. But Ryusuke Yagamai just needs to grab any Otsutsuki with god level strength. You can kill him easily. In this way, you achieve your goal without violating the rules of the chat group. It's simply not too easy. Sure enough, there is a guy in the chat group who is much more powerful than the others. He is still too dangerous. The Hokages in the parallel world couldn't help but say. Even though Ryusuke Yagamai usually speaks politely, he looks like a big boy next door. But in essence, he is still a very domineering person. He can do whatever he wants. If others don't follow his wishes, he might disappear the next day. Except for a few of these Hokages in the group, which one is not an old fox? He looks at everyone. That's accurate. After getting along with each other for this period of time, they have already seen through the true nature of Yagamai Ryusuke. Normally, everyone laughs and makes jokes, which is totally fine. But if you really bite your nose and think you can point fingers at him, if so, that would be a big mistake. Okay, it's okay. Ryusuke Yagamai gently patted Mikoto's back and said. Mikoto nodded gently, loosened her hand, and let go of Yagamai Ryusuke. She reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, raised her head and looked at Yagamai Ryusuke in front of her. Ryusuke, have you been protecting me secretly? No, I'm here to see the fun. Ryusuke Yagamai said. Ah. Mikoto had a surprised expression on her face. Yagamai Ryusuke looked at it, laughed, and said, of course I'm here to protect you secretly. You're kidding again. Mikoto rolled her eyes at him angrily, then turned to look at the corpse of Kyumigakure's two-tailed Jinchuriki over there. Is he dead? She asked. Well, dead. To read exciting novels, go to Fila Novel Network. Yagamai Ryusuke nodded. I didn't expect that I would encounter such an enemy on my first day on the battlefield. The battlefield is really dangerous. Mikoto looked frightened. If Yagami Ryusuke hadn't come to the rescue just now, she would really have no choice but to give this guy a blow before she died, and then die unwillingly on this battlefield. In that case, she would probably become a joke in people's mouths, right? After all, how can a shadow-level strongman be killed on the first day on the battlefield? I will probably become the first person in the history of the ninja world, right? Mikoto thought to herself. Stop thinking nonsense, it's time for you to return to camp. Ryusuke Yagami said. Well, it's time to go back. Mikoto nodded, then looked at Yagami Ryusuke and asked, Where are you, Ryusuke? Do you want to go back together? Also. Ryusuke Yagami thought for a while, then nodded and said. Konoha camp. When Mikoto and the Uchiha clan ninjas came back, they found that the camp was full of wounded people. This battle was obviously not easy. Regardless. This is true for both the Kyumo ninja and the Konoha ninjas. Both sides paid a heavy price for this. Look. Is that the body of Kyumigakuru's two Jinchuriki? Oh my god. The Uchiha clan killed the second-tailed Jinchuriki of Kyumigakure village. At this time, someone with keen eyes noticed the corpse that several Uchiha Jounin carried back. Some ninjas who knew Kyumigakure's two Jinchuriki couldn't help but exclaimed. Their faces were full of shock. This at that time. Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, the master and disciples, also heard the news and rushed over. Is it really Kyumigakure's second-tailed Jinchuriki? Namikaze Minato looked at the corpse in surprise, and then looked at the ninjas of the Uchiha clan. Did you kill him? The Uchiha shook their heads and looked at Mikoto on the other side. Seeing this, Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya also looked towards Mikoto. It was the 390 kunoichi of the Uchiha clan who awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. When Jiraiya saw Mikoto, the other party's information immediately emerged in his mind. Some information about Uchiha Mikoto had already been known to the top officials of Konoha. Now in the high-level circles of Konoha, who doesn't know that the Uchiha clan has returned? Has anyone awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan? It turns out to be the Mangekyo Sharingan, so no wonder. Jiraiya nodded. Then he laughed and praised Mikoto. Mikoto was very embarrassed. After all, she didn't actually kill the person. Now that the credit is placed on her, it's no wonder Mikoto is embarrassed. If Ryusuke Yagami hadn't told her in advance, she would have wanted to say directly that the two-tailed Jinchuriki was not killed by her. But now, it can only be the default. Konoha camp, in a tent. Mikoto came in with 2 boxes of lunch and saw Ryusuke Yagami lying on her bed, holding a book and reading. Time to eat? Mikoto shouted. Oh. It's time to eat? Ryusuke Yagami put down his book and sat up with a smile. The food on the front line is relatively average, and you may not be used to it. Mikan came over with 2 lunch boxes and placed them on a small table. The lunch boxes were opened and there were some very simple dishes inside, and they were all fast food. It's okay, I haven't eaten it anyway, so I'm just giving it a try. Ryusuke Yagami picked up his chopsticks and said. It is true that he has never eaten food on the front line battlefield. I just heard that most of the food eaten on the front line is dry food, and some canned food. Of course. When performing tasks, probably I can only eat some military food pills. Yagami Ryusuke has tasted that stuff. It tastes terrible. Anyway, he ate it once and will never want to eat it again. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 319. Does it taste okay? Mikoto took 2 bites, then raised her head and looked at Ryusuke Yagami opposite. Well, it's okay, much better than Bing Liangwan. Ryusuke Yagami nodded. This stuff has a pretty ordinary canned taste. It's not delicious, but it's not unpalatable either. Of course. If you give Ryusuke Yagami a canned herring or something, he definitely won't be able to stand it. That's good. Mikoto smiled and nodded. The two of them were eating lunch and chatting about some things on the battlefield. After the lunch was finished, Mikoto took the lunch box and left, and came back after a while. There shouldn't be any action tonight. Do you want to go back to Konoha to rest? Mikoto looked at Ryosuke Yagami and asked after she came back. No, to avoid any accidents, I'd better stay here. Ryosuke Yagami said. Then let me make a bed for you. Mikoto nodded and blushed when she turned around. After all, tonight, the two of them are living together. They sleep in a tent together. Although it is not the same bed, Mikoto is still a little shy. Soon. Ryosuke Yagami, the bed was already made. He went over and tried it, and it was quite firm. There should be no need to worry about it falling apart in the middle of the night. Good night. Mikoto also lay on her bed, said good night to Ryosuke Yagami, and then turned off a light next to her. The light went out. The tent became dark. The camp outside the tent gradually became quiet. Come down. Everyone is tired. And the fighting may continue tomorrow. We must rest early and recharge ourselves. Yagami Ryosuke is lying on the bed that Mikoto made for him, with his eyes open and staring at the system's entry converter interface is refining the entry that failed to convert to perfect attributes yesterday. Once, twice, 3 times. Ryosuke Yagami was not in a hurry either. In this way, the attributes of the entries are slowly transformed again and again. The 950,000 experience points were also consumed little by little. When only the last 170,000 experience points are left, Yagami Ryosuke stopped. Transcendent, super god level, your power has broken through the limits of this world, you have achieved a great transcendence, you have become an unprecedented existence in this world, and there is a high probability that you will never come again. Maybe you will be eliminated by the entire world remembered in the history of the world. All-round strength add 100%. Attached. A transcendent person. Very good. Finally succeeded. Ryosuke Yagami happily looked at the attributes on the entry. The 1000-fold bonus was finally washed out by him. There are still 170,000 experience points left. Do you want to try to clear other entries? Ryosuke Yagami looked at his experience point balance and hesitated for a moment. At this moment, a rustling sound came from the other side. Ryosuke Yagami turned his head and looked over. The darkness could not affect it. His sight. In the sight of Yagami Ryosuke, Mikoto, who had been lying down just now, suddenly climbed up from the bed carefully, and then tiptoed towards him. Yagami Ryosuke had a question mark on his face. Ryosuke, are you asleep? Mikoto walked next to him and asked in a low voice. Not yet, you can't sleep. Yagami. Ryosuke said. Mikoto nodded. Well, can't sleep. Ryosuke. In the darkness, Ryosuke Yagami felt a pair of small hands sneak into his bed and hold his hand. I think. Mikoto lowered her head, her cheeks were red, and she couldn't even speak clearly. Mikoto, actually I have liked you for a long time. Yagami Ryosuke suddenly sat up and looked at Mikoto in the darkness. Ah! Mikoto raised her head and looked at him in surprise. Then she was hugged by Yagami Ryosuke. But will we be sorry to Kushina if we do this? Mikoto was hugged by Ryosuke Yagami. She was nervous and excited, but she still felt a little embarrassed. She always felt that doing so would be a disservice to Kushina, who was far away in the village. Kushina wouldn't mind. Yagami Ryosuke said in Mikoto's ear. Then he slowly lowered his head. Mikoto also closed her eyes. The next second, oops. Yagami Ryosuke opened his eyes and found that he had accidentally rolled off the bed. The whole thing fell to the ground, and half of the cup was still on the bed. It was already done outside the tent. Turn out to be, it's a dream. Ryosuke Yagamai had an astonished expression on his face. He didn't expect that he would have such a dream. It was really. At this time, the tent curtain was opened. Mikoto, who had just finished washing outside, walked in and saw Ryosuke Yagamai lying on the ground. Her beautiful eyes stared in surprise. Ryosuke, what are you doing? Ryosuke Yagamai quickly got up in embarrassment. Ahem. The bed was a bit small and fell down when I turned over, he said. Hearing this, Mikoto also burst into laughter. So you weren't injured in the fall, were you? She asked with concern. No, I didn't. Ryosuke Yagamai really feels so embarrassed right now. He has never been so embarrassed in his life. Fortunately, Mikoto didn't know what he was dreaming about and rolled out of bed. Otherwise, Ryosuke Yagamai would. I'm afraid that I will run away with Hirizaka in a flash. I'm so embarrassed to see people. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Fila Novel Network. In the morning, Ryosuke Yagamai walked around the camp. Then he found a rock with a good view and sat down. He opened the character panel and found the entry Transcendent. Fortunately, this is not a dream. Ryosuke Yagamai was relieved when he saw the 1000 times bonus attribute on the entry of Transcendent. Speaking of which, he still didn't understand why he had that kind of dream last night. Could it be the so-called Riswiu? Thinking about a dream at night? But he didn't think about it that much. Maybe it was the atmosphere. Ryosuke Yagamai thought. After all, the two of them slept in the same tent. As a normal man, Ryosuke Yagamai would inevitably think too much. Maybe even he didn't realize it. But in the dream, it was all revealed. Fortunately, Mikoto didn't know anything. Otherwise, he would have been embarrassed. However, I shouldn't be talking in my sleep, right? Yakami Ryosuke suddenly thought. His face changed involuntarily. Damn it! I can't talk in my sleep and Mikoto hears it, right? Throughout the next day, Yagamai Ryosuke secretly observed Mikoto's expression. Several observations after coming down, he felt that Mikoto probably didn't hear him talking in his sleep, or maybe she didn't talk in her sleep at all. Anyway, she didn't look anything abnormal. Fortunately, Ryosuke Yagamai secretly rejoiced. At around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Konoha and Kyomagakure once again broke out into a war. Both sides sent thousands of ninjas to participate in the battle. The entire battlefield was full of fighting sounds, and various ninjutsu were flying everywhere. And even the shadow-level warriors broke out into a battle, destroying a large area of forest. The battle ended in the evening. The two sides once again had no choice but to retreat. No, if this continues, we will suffer too much. Jiraiya stood in the camp, looking at the wounded being carried away for treatment one by one, his frown never loosening. Teacher, why don't you let me attack the Kyomagakure camp? Namikaze Minato stood aside and suggested. Minato in this world is much more radical, so it is normal for him to make such a suggestion. No, Kyomagakure will definitely be on guard against you. If you act rashly, you may fall into a trap. Jiraiya shook his head. It's impossible for Kyomagakure to be on guard against Minato's Flying Thunder God technique. A sneak attack like this at night is basically unlikely to work. Although the fourth Raikage seems to be a reckless man. But in fact, he has a delicate mind, but his personality is more impulsive and irritable, which gives people the illusion of a reckless man, but in fact it is just an illusion. Although Jiraiya usually behaves a little out of character. But on the battlefield, this he still has some discernment. Therefore, it is impossible for him to agree to Namikaze Minato's one-man night attack plan. But, nohow, if this continues, the loss of ninjas in the village will be too great. Namikaze Minato said with a frown. It's okay, I already have a solution. Jiraiya suddenly said with a smile. Al. Namikaze Minato looked at his teacher in surprise. Teacher, are you serious? Of course. I am Toad Sage Jiraiya. Jiraiya said proudly, Minato, this kid still has a lot to learn. Then Mr. Jiraiya, what is your approach? Namikaze Minato asked hurriedly. This is being kept secret for now, but don't worry, things will turn around tomorrow at the latest. Jiraiya said with a mysterious look. Namikaze Minato. Real or fake? Jiraiya-sensei is not lying to me, is he? Hello. Minato, are you thinking of something rude? Jiraiya suddenly stared at him and asked. Haha. How is it possible? How could I be thinking of something impolite? Teacher Jiraiya, you must have read it wrong. Namikaze Minato quickly scratched his head and explained. Really? Jiraiya looked suspicious. Of course that's true. Namikaze Minato said seriously, go. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 320. The next day, had breakfast in the morning. Yagami Ryusuke took down the 7 entries on the AFK position and replaced them with a new batch of 7 golden entries. The golden entries are almost finished upgrading, and you can focus on those god level entries later. Ryusuke Yagami looked at the list of entries for his equipment. There were not many golden entries left on it. Basically, they have been upgraded to god level. There are only a few that have not been queued up yet. And the 3 that were idle before god level entries are now steadily increasing their experience points. However, the upgrade of god level entries is slow. If you want to upgrade to the super god level while idle, it will take more than half a year. Just wait. At this stage, Yagami Ryusuke has rarely used biological pheromones to convert useful golden entries or even god level entries. One thing he has to admit is that the Naruto world, including those in the parallel world, can no longer give him any new useful entries. At present, he is just resting on his old laurels. Use the synthesis function of the system to synthesize new entries for use. Like in the past, you can get good entries directly by conversion. It seems that it is gone forever. This is not good news for Ryusuke Yagami, but he has nothing to do at the moment. He can only take one step at a time. If it doesn't work, he can only rely on the synthesis function, through continuous synthesize and upgrade to obtain new entry bonuses. To be honest, the entry for Yagami Suki-kan's equipment is quite luxurious. Not to mention the 10 super god level entries. It's just one water. God level entries are also quite shocking. However, as his strength increases, golden and even god level talent entries are of less and less help to him. 553 except for a few special entries. Most of the other 2-level entries are no longer of much use to Yagami Ryusuke. For example, those ninjutsu power bonuses, chakra bonuses, etc. are no longer useful. Even entries like Power of Contract are of little use to Yagami Ryusuke, who has reached the high god level. Because his Power of Contract entry is at the god level. The upper limit of its bonus is the god level. Or it is infinitely close to the high god level, but it cannot reach this height. But now, Ryusuke Yagami is already at the high god level and has invincible strength. Naturally, the effect of the Power of Contract is useless. Fortunately, the entry can be upgraded. Just upgrade the Power of Contract entry to the super god level. Then the effect will still be outstanding. Even better than before. On the battlefield, the situation is changing rapidly. Ryusuke Yagami is a bystander. You can see all these changes most clearly. For example, Jiraiya launched a surprise attack 2 days ago. Jiraiya himself, as well as Uchiha Mikoto and Heitake Sakumo, teamed up with Sarutobi Hiruzen, and foreshadows the powerful men with super strength took action together and attacked the Kyomagakure troops from behind. In one fell swoop, more than 800 ninjas from the Kyomagakure troops were annihilated, and more than 1,000 were captured. This battle directly laid the foundation for the Konoha side of the Kyomagakure battlefield. Victory. I heard that the Yondaime Raikage was so angry that day that he went into a rage in the camp and smashed a lot of things. In the following days, the two sides did not fight like before. And Heitake Sakumo and others who had sneaked over before also returned after leaving Konoha. He continued to sit in the rear. Speaking of which, Heitake Sakumo has gradually taken control of some powers in the village in recent times. For example, the Umbu has been taken under his command. Now, except for a few ninjas, apart from the fact that the clan has not yet expressed its position, most of the forces in the village have basically moved towards Heitake Sakumo. Especially the super combat power shown by Heitake Sakumo this time. One person stopped the 4th Raikage and the 8 Tails Jinhuriki Rabbi, plus dozens of Kyomagakure Jonin. The battle established his reputation as the #1 man in Konoha, and dealt a huge blow to the old Konoha high-level group headed by the 3rd generation of Sarutobi Hiruzen. In comparison, this time Sarutobi Hiruzen's performance was relatively unsatisfactory. Can only say, meeting is not as good as being famous. Who is the strongest Hokage? His mouth is just about the same. Many people who paid attention to the Kyomagakure battlefield were disappointed, and then rumors that Sarutobi Hiruzen was old, his strength had declined seriously, and he could not even defeat 2 or 3 elite jounin, gradually spread in the ninja world. Come on. This also greatly damaged Sarutobi Hiruzen's prestige. Sarutobi Hiruzen was angry, and Yagami Ryusuke didn't care. Apart from the situation on the Union battlefield, the only thing he paid attention to was the situation where he had accumulated a large amount of experience points in the past few days. In addition, the 7 golden entries that were just replaced last time have also been upgraded today. After Ryusuke Yagami replaced them, he added 4 golden entries and 3 god-level entries. In this way, his 10 idle slots will become 6 god-level entries and 4 golden entries. And these 4 golden entries are also the last 4 remaining among the entries for Ryusuke Yagami's equipment. Wait until they are upgraded. Ryusuke Yagami can achieve the lowest god-level achievement in the entire entry. Certainly. There is no reward for this achievement. It is purely awarded by Ryusuke Yagami himself. I have accumulated 5.87 million experience points, which is almost it. Ryusuke Yagami is still sitting on the same stone. Recently he has been on the Kyomagakure battlefield, and he spends most of his time sitting here looking at the scenery. From here, you can see the situation on the front line battlefield. You can also see the distance. The mountains and the sea of clouds were there. At this time, Yagami Ryusuke also opened the character panel, clicked on the entry converter, and prepared to spend a lot of money, converting the attributes of several super god level entries. Good, CBFJ, good, give it a good wash. As for the god level entries, that's not necessary. They will all have to be upgraded in the future anyway. God knows if the ones that are washed out now will be able to maintain the same level after upgrading. What if this is washed out now? It had perfect attributes, but after upgrading it turned into ordinary level attribute values. That was such a loss. Ryusuke Yagami didn't feel bad about the experience points. The main reason was that he felt that it was too much of a disadvantage. The 2 super god level entries Higher Divine Body and Transcendent have been polished into perfect attributes by Ryusuke Yagami. So no need to wash it again. But the remaining 8 entries need a good wash. Now Ryusuke Yagami has accumulated nearly 6 million experience points. No matter what you say today, you must at least come up with 3 entries with perfect attributes, right? Just go from top to bottom. Ryosuke Yagami doesn't want to pick any more. They all have to be washed anyway. It doesn't matter if it's one day earlier or one day later. 10. So the first thing to wash today is the entry power of higher God. This word, the attribute bonus of the bar, is 30,000%. It's still the initial value. It's too low. It must be washed thoroughly. System God bless you. Ryosuke Yagami rubbed his hands and pressed the transform button with his thoughts. Brush. A light flashed. The attribute of the entry became higher God's power at 40,000%. It increased. But not much. Continue. Yagami Ryosuke pressed the transform button again. Power of high God add 50,000%. Power of high God add 20,000%. Power of high God add 70,000%. With each transformation, the attribute value also fluctuates. After a full 100 conversions, Yagami Ryosuke just stopped and looked at the properties washed out with satisfaction. Power of high God add 100%. Not bad. Perfect attributes achieved. Change to the next one. Ryosuke Yagami took down the entry power of a higher God and then added a new entry, invincible power. This entry adds physical fitness. Although power of contract is useless now. But it's only temporarily useless. It will still be useful in the future. Moreover, physical fitness is not just for use in conjunction with the power of contract. This attribute itself is also quite important. It's quite powerful in combination with Ryosuke Yagami's immortal body. And Ryosuke Yagami also has a fighting mad body. If this 1000-fold bonus is added up, this physical strength alone would be top-notch even at the advanced God level, invincible level. Transformation. Yagami Ryosuke rubbed his hands and prayed to the system God to bless him. After all, the things inside the system are nothing but the system master. It seems that other gods have no control over it. Therefore, it is more effective to pray to the system master. It was the same just now, and perfect attributes were obtained after 100 transformations. In the past, it took 150 attempts to succeed. This suddenly reduces the consumption of experience points by 1/3. If this were the case for every entry, today I am afraid that I will be able to wash at least 4 super god level entries into perfect attributes. 124 after conversion. Yagami Ryosuke stopped. Physical fitness add 100%. 124 transformation, consuming 124 experience points. Finally the entry has become a perfect attribute. In this way, Ryosuke Yagami has 4 super god level entries with perfect attributes. There are more than 3 million experience points left, which is better than expected. Maybe we can actually get 4 entries with perfect attributes. Ryosuke Yagami looked at his remaining experience points. Because the refinement of the first 2 entries was relatively instant, the experience points consumed were less than expected. If it stays like this from now on, 4 perfect attributes were washed out today. The entry is not impossible. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 321. Bloodline of High God, Super God level. Your bloodline power has reached the level of High God. Maybe you can try to form a family and give birth to more descendants. Maybe they will inherit the power of your bloodline. Bloodline power at 100%. Attached, guidance from the bloodline of the higher gods. It came out after 99 washes. Ryosuke Yagami looked at this 3rd super god level entry with some surprise. I didn't expect that this time it would be smoother than the previous 2 times. Am I lucky today? Ryosuke Yagami thought. Otherwise, how could the perfect attributes that had to be washed out more than 150 times before, be able to be washed out today in about 100 times? Isn't this good luck? That's great. Good luck. Really? Am I lucky today? Ryosuke Yagami nodded, and then put the fourth super god level entry on it and washed it. Once, twice, 10 times. 104 again. Successfully developed perfect attributes. Unlimited energy, super god level. Your energy is beyond your imagination. Higher divine power recovery speed at 100%. I didn't expect that there would be a lot of experience points left. Ryosuke Yagamai looked at his remaining experience points. He didn't expect that today would be so smooth. Wrong. Yakami Ryosuke suddenly thought of something, and quickly opened the character panel and found the entry he just took down again. Infinite energy entry. This entry has only one attribute, so is it possible that the 1000-fold bonus is not actually its limit? He rubbed his chin and thought, and the more he thought about it, the more he thought it was possible. Other entries, those are dual attributes. So the upper limit is 1000 times. But this entry is single attribute. Then the upper limit is probably not 1000 times. Thinking of this, Yagamai Ryosuke, who pursues perfection, couldn't help but wash this entry a few more times. After a few times, advanced divine power recovery speed at 105%. Really? The upper limit of this entry is not 1000 times. No, a higher value of 1050 times will appear soon. So, I have to keep washing. After thinking about it, Yagamai Ryosuke looked at his remaining experience points. I feel that with my luck today, I should be able to wash this entry to perfect attributes. For a single attribute entry, if the attribute is perfect, it must be at least 1500 times, right? Yakami Ryoja said heartily while refining the attributes of this entry over and over again. Once, twice, 10 times. Soon, when the remaining experience points are only over 30,000. Yagamai Ryosuke just stopped. Advanced divine power recovery speed at 150%. 1500 times. Perfect property. I really got 4 entries today. Ryosuke Yagamai himself was a little surprised. The key point here is that there is an entry with a single attribute. Entries like this with a single attribute and a higher perfect attribute value are obviously more difficult to wash out. But in the end it was still successful. The 1500-fold bonus was washed out. The effect was simply explosive. Let's put it this way, even if more than 80% of the power of the higher god in Ryosuke Yagamai's body was consumed in an instant. In this infinite energy entry with the blessing, it can be restored to full status instantly. It is indeed infinite energy. This name is really not a joke. It's amazing. 2 days later, on the Tsunagakure battlefield, Konoha's ninja troops marched in and chased following the Tsunagakure troops in front. They directly entered more than 300 kilometers into the Kingdom of Wind. Heitake Sakumo, the 4th-generation Hokage, personally took action and defeated the opposing 4th-generation Kazekage and Joe's mother-in-law, and by the way, Tsunagakure the one-tailed Jinchuriki was captured. He became famous in another battle. Later, Tsunagakure village announced its surrender and was willing to pay compensation to redeem their one-tailed Jinchuriki. And just when the news of the success of the Tsunagakure battlefield came, on the hidden battlefield, Konoha also achieved another victory. Kumigakure's last counterattack was suppressed. The 4th Raikage teamed up with the 8-tailed Jinchuriki Rabbi, but still lost to the masters and disciples of Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato. Combination. In the end, Kumigakure announced a truce with Konoha. But he refused to accept the payment of any compensation. At this point, the Third Ninja World War has entered its final stage. What follows is some negotiations and the like. It is unlikely that the fight will happen again. The fight started. The Kingdom of Water has been hiding from the world and doesn't know what it is doing. The Iwagakure village of the Kingdom of Earth paid a huge price for besieging and killing the Sandaime Raikage before. They have not yet recovered and dare not continue to cause trouble. Coupled with the powerful strength displayed by Konoha, it really scared several other ninja villages. Therefore, the Third Ninja World War has almost ended here. The troops on the front line Kumigakure battlefield also began to evacuate. Mikoto, a newcomer to the battlefield for the first time, although she did not stay on the battlefield for a long time, she has a deep understanding of the cruelty of war. In just these days, she has seen too many life and death. There were more than she had seen in her entire life. So after the war, Mikoto also found Ryosuke Yagamai and asked him to accompany her to a nearby town to relax. Ryosuke Yagamai, it just so happens that he has nothing important to do these days. In addition to continuing to accumulate experience points and preparing to wash the remaining Super God level entries to perfect attributes. The only thing he has is the strengthening talismans he is accumulating every day. I can't save enough for that thing. After all, the purchase is limited to 100 pieces per day, and Yagamai Ryosuke has no shortage of points. Naturally, I can buy as much as I can. Anyway, I will definitely use it in the future. Besides, read Bao's Huang novels, just go to Firo Novel Network. His Kusanagi sword. Shirayuki has not been strengthened to add 40 yet. I don't know if add 40 is the current upper limit of this Hokage chat group. In a small town, because of its proximity to the battlefield. It was originally prosperous. The small town now looks a bit desolate. Many shops are closed. Some residents of the town have fled. But now that the war is over, I believe that in the near future, this small town will be full of vitality again. Come to life. Ryosuke Yagamai and Mikoto walked around the town. Ate some normal food. I have been eating canned food these days. Mikoto has long been tired of eating it. Now I can finally eat food that tastes normal and is still fresh and delicious. When the first mouthful came into her mouth, Mikoto almost cried out of emotion. Ryosuke Yagamai laughed at her for being too exaggerated. But Mikoto smiled and pointed at the empty plate next to Ryosuke Yagamai. That's built high. Much more than her side. After dinner, the two of them watched the sunset for a while on the edge of the town. Then I found a hotel that was still open in the town and stayed. There were not many guests in the hotel. Only one boss's wife is still there, and all the other employees have fled. The proprietress said that she no longer had any relatives, and this hotel was her only relative in the world, so she was unwilling to leave even though she knew it would be dangerous to stay here. Mikoto smiles and tells her the war is over. The landlady was very happy, and her eyes filled with excitement. I also want to give them a free bill. But Ryosuke Yagamai still paid their rent. After all, it's not easy for the boss lady either. All you earn is hard-earned money. Afterwards, the two of them enjoyed the hotel's hot spring pool. They were the only two guests in the huge hot spring pool, so there was no problem even if they swam in it. Ryosuke, please rub your back for me. Mikoto suddenly said. No problem. Yagamai. Ryosuke nodded and paddled across the water. He pinched himself secretly. Well, it felt like it was not a dream. He pressed Mikoto's back for half an hour. Then Mikoto asked Yagamai Ryosuke to turn around. It's her turn to massage Ryosuke Yagamai. Ryosuke, relax, don't be so tense. Mikoto said, patting his back gently. Yagamai Ryosuke smiled bitterly. He couldn't relax now. After soaking in the hot spring, it was getting late. The two of them also returned to the room to rest. The room they booked was originally there are 2 bedrooms. But one of the bedrooms is destined to be unused tonight. The next day, around 10 a.m. Mikoto wakes up faintly. As soon as she opens her eyes, she sees Ryosuke Yagamai looking at him with a smile. Looking at her. What's wrong? Are there flowers on my face? Mikoto asked with a wink. No, but more beautiful than flowers. Yakami Ryusuke stretched out his arms to hug her and held her in his arms. Mikoto also put her face comfortably against Yagami Ryusuke's body. Neither of them spoke, just enjoying the tranquility of this moment quietly. Listening to each other's heartbeats. After a while. Ryusuke, do you think Kushina will be angry if she finds out about our relationship? Mikoto suddenly asked. She raised her head and looked at Yagami Ryusuke, with a hint of worry in her eyes. Don't worry, I have everything. Yagami Ryusuke said softly. Hearing this, Mikoto also nodded gently. She leaned her head against Yagami Ryusuke again, with a happy smile on her face.